In a world where a college degree is often seen as the only key to success, one young man approached that door from a different angle. No ivy-covered credentials, no crisp business suit, no framed certificates lining the wall. But he had something transcripts can't measure: true talent. And today, he wasn't just walking into a job interview. He was walking into a system that had already decided he wasn't enough based solely on how he looked and what he wore. New York City. Monday morning. The first chill of early autumn drifted through the streets, squeezing between glass towers and sweeping through subway grates like a quiet warning. The sky was still laced with morning fog, sunlight flickering weakly through clouds, casting a pale, silvery glow on the steel bones of the city. New York never stopped, never slowed, but in this moment, for Malik Washington, time felt suspended. He zipped up his old Army surplus jacket and adjusted the faded backpack slung over one shoulder, a hand-me-down from his father. Then he stood still, looking up at the gleaming glass tower ahead. Byteforge, Inc., a tech startup everyone in the developer world was talking about. Fresh off a Series B funding round. High stakes, higher expectations. He took a breath. Then another. And one more for good measure. Beneath the gray hoodie and worn jacket, Malik's heart thudded, not out of fear, but from the weight of everything he carried. He knew the looks he'd get the moment he stepped through that door. Malik Washington, 24. Dark brown skin, sharp, thoughtful eyes that stayed quiet unless they needed to speak. His hands tucked in his hoodie pockets like they were shielding something. His hair tightly curled, cropped short. Worn-out Nike sneaker shoes, last birthday gift from his mother, before she was diagnosed with late-stage kidney failure. He had once been a sophomore at City College of New York, majoring in computer science. But when his mother fell ill and his 10-year-old sister needed someone home, school had to wait. Or rather disappear. Mornings as a barista, nights delivering food, and the rest of the time? Code. Tireless, obsessive code. Self-taught on a battered old laptop passed down from a family friend. Where others studied in lecture halls, Malik studied in silence. His teachers were Stack Overflow, GitHub, Reddit, and fear. Fear that if he didn't rise, his family would have nothing left to hold on to. Falcon Gate.js. That was the name of the framework he built. A back-end security plugin for web applications. Downloaded over 40,000 times. Used and praised by developers in dozens of countries. But Malik had never once been called software engineer by a real company. Not yet. The Byteforge building was sleek and intimidating, all glass and polished chrome. The lobby had marble floors, an access gate with facial ID scanners, and a reception desk that looked like a sculpture. Behind it sat a young white woman in a tailored blazer, tapping briskly at a touchscreen. When Malik approached, she looked up. A half-second glance, but it carried the weight of centuries. "Can I help you?" she asked, her tone polite but razor-thin. Malik offered a calm smile. "I have an interview with the development team, 10 o'clock. Name's Malik Washington." She glanced at her screen, then back at him, this time slower. She didn't see a Stanford grad. No portfolio case, no watch, no suit. Just a hoodie, a backpack with one torn strap. She said nothing, just handed him a red-printed visitor badge. "Visitor. Must be escorted. Please wait over there. Someone will be down to get you." No smile, no welcome. The waiting area was sterile and spotless. White leather seats, a black glass coffee table, and tech magazines arranged like museum pieces. Malik sat down carefully, as if his very presence might stain the room. Two young white men in sharp Armani suits were seated nearby. One glanced over at him, then nudged the other. They snickered quietly, nodding toward Malik's frayed backpack like it was the punchline of a joke. "Is he here for the interview?" the smirk said without words. Malik looked down, opened his phone. Portfolio check. GitHub repos check. Issue logs, feature roadmap, all there. Everything that mattered. Just not on paper, not on a diploma. Minutes passed like hours. His mind wandered: his mom, on dialysis back in the Bronx. His sister, a ninth grader struggling through advanced algebra. He'd promised to tutor her tonight. Then the elevator dinged. A white woman in her late 30s emerged. Blonde hair in a perfect bun, high heels clicking like a metronome of authority, MacBook Air in one arm. She scanned the room like radar. "Malik Washington?" He stood. "Yes, that's me. I'm Rebecca Stone. Follow me." She turned on her heel without a glance back. Malik followed. He took one more breath. This wasn't just an interview. It was a gauntlet. And he knew the moment he walked in, he was already several points behind, penalized for his hoodie, his skin, the way his backpack sagged off his shoulder. To win this, talent wouldn't be enough. He'd have to be undeniable. The 23rd floor conference room at Byteforge was all glass and silence white walls, soft gray accents, and a massive touchscreen display stretching across nearly an entire wall. At the far end of a sleek oval table sat Rebecca, stone tall, sharp, blonde, with crimson lipstick and a presence that demanded silence. Her MacBook Pro was open, a black coffee steaming beside it. Malik stepped in behind her, and it felt less like entering a meeting than crossing into a sealed-off crime scene. Jason, a young white intern with messy brown hair and square glasses, was already seated. He gave Malik a polite nod and a hesitant smile, the kind you give before the world trains you to look away. He wasn't fully conditioned. Not yet. Rebecca didn't look up. She gestured to the seat across from her. "Sit." Malik nodded, quietly setting his backpack at his feet. Rebecca opened his file, skimming it with the speed of someone not reading, but scanning for errors. Her red-painted nails flicked the pages, eyes narrowing with every line. No degree, no big-name company experience, just a few personal projects, something called Falcon something. She squinted. "You think this is what, some kind of garage hackathon?" Malik spoke evenly, calmly. FalconGate.js is an open-source security framework I built. It's been downloaded over 40,000 times and has 9,000 stars on GitHub. It's used by several small companies and independent dev teams. Rebecca let out a short, dry laugh, pure contempt, unconcealed. "We don't hire people with stars. We hire people with standards. Degrees. Experience from real places, Stanford, Michigan T, or at least NYU. We need professionals here, not inspirational stories from Stack Overflow." Malik's gaze remained calm, but his voice cut sharper now. "I didn't apply for an internship. I'm applying for a senior security role. I've patched zero-day vulnerabilities in widely used frameworks. I've contributed to multiple CVE fixes. I didn't need a degree to do that." Rebecca snapped her laptop shut. Her eyes narrowed. "You don't get it, do you? What I see is a young black man walking in here with a resume I can't trust. No certifications, no proper experience, and sorry to say, it not the right look. I've got a dozen better applications sitting in my inbox. Not the right look?" Malik heard it, loud and clear. "Not the right skin tone. Not the right mold." Her words were just bias, dressed in business language, polished, but poisonous. Jason shifted in his seat, hesitating. Rebecca, that framework he mentioned, FalconGate? I think we're using a stripped-down version of it in our backend. I remember seeing a custom module based on the open-source repo." Rebecca turned sharply. "Impossible. FalconGate came from the old security team. Even if it shares the name, no way some guy built it from his bedroom and now we're using it." Malik didn't argue. He reached down, pulled out his old ThinkPad card, and covered in half-peeled dev stickers. No connection cables, no setup. He opened GitHub, clicked to his repository. A line appeared on screen. Author, Malik Washington. Dev. License, MIT, free for public and enterprise use. Jason leaned in, squinting. "It's real." Just then, a ding echoed in the room. The touchscreen behind them flickered to life. "Alert. Abnormal traffic spikes detected on port 443. Lubritz. Suspicious API injection patterns. Attempted breach through endpoint. Admin. Config. Permissions. Rebecca shot up. What the hell? Jason tapped furiously on his laptop. Rebecca, it looks like we're under a DDoS attack. There's also a coordinated injection attempt. They may have found a vulnerability in our API endpoint. Rebecca immediately grabbed her phone. Jules, check the system. If you can't contain this in 5 minutes, shut down the user interface. Voices erupted from speakers. Footsteps thudded outside. Phones rang. In the chaos, Malik sat silently, hands folded, eyes focused. It's not the endpoint, he said softly. The vulnerability is in the middleware handler. Someone modified the auth layer parameters I originally wrote, and they did it wrong. Rebecca froze. What did you just say? Malik stepped forward. No one said a word as he reached into his backpack, pulled out his battered ThinkPad, and connected it to the conference room's smart display. The screen flickered, then bloomed into a terminal window black background, green text. It looked unassuming, but his hands were calm, practiced. He typed swiftly. Applying patch. Security fix 3.2.1 initialized. Restarting Falcon API services. To the others, it was just a stream of characters. To Malik, it was a language he spoke fluently. One he had carved for himself in the silent hours of midnight code sprints, unpaid contributions, and unanswered job applications. He hit enter. The logs refreshed. Red turned to amber. Amber turned to green. Jason scrolled through the logs, jaw slack. The attack traffic's blocked. Firewalls responding exactly per packet flow. Everything's stable again. Malik stood slowly, turned toward Rebecca. ByteForge is using a customized version of Falcon Gate.js, a framework I wrote 3 years ago, before you even had a public website. I built it so companies like yours wouldn't have to reinvent security from scratch. I fixed this flaw in my head. No documentation, no permissions needed. Rebecca stood frozen, like someone hit her with a brick of ice. Jason looked between them, still stunned. Rebecca, he really is the one who built our security infrastructure. Malik's voice didn't rise. He didn't need to. I came here to be treated like an engineer, not to beg for a favor. But apparently, for some people, achievement still isn't enough, unless it comes with the right color and a frame degree. No one spoke. The silence in the conference room was suffocating. Rebecca stood frozen, lips pressed into a hard line, her hand gripping the edge of the table so tightly her knuckles had gone pale. Something inside her, the tidy equation she'd always believed, was fracturing. Degree equals competency. Standardization equals efficiency. Skin color equals trustworthiness. The first voice to break the silence wasn't hers. It was Jason, the intern. Malik, your framework Falcon Gatit's really running our core security layer. Some of your original comment tags are still in the code. Malik gave a slight nod, his voice steady, as if explaining something to a beginner's class. I built it to help small teams who couldn't afford dedicated security experts deploy safe systems. It's modular, lightweight, with real-time alerts built in. But someone edited it without input sanitization checks. That's why the injection got through. Jason mumbled more to himself than anyone else. If you hadn't been here today, we would have lost everything. Rebecca clenched her fists. Her tone was sharp, desperate to regain ground. I don't understand why an applicant would have access to the system to make changes. Malik smiled faintly. No malice, just clarity. I wasn't given access. I recognized your config folder structure and knew right away you were using an unpatched version 3.2.0 missing the fallback authentication fix. I just patched something I built. Jason turned to Rebecca, his voice cautious but firm. Rebecca, honestly, if you hadn't dismissed him so quickly for his appearance or lack of a degree, he'd probably be running the security team by now. That landed like a punch. Rebecca glared at Jason cold, clipped, defensive. Moments later, Jewel head of IT burst into the room, forehead shining with sweat. Who neutralized the breach? Jason pointed. Malik did. Jules stopped mid-step. Him? The interviewee? Before anyone could answer, Rebecca muttered bitterly. The person we clearly didn't evaluate properly. Jules looked between Malik and Jason, clearly hoping someone would hand him a version of events that didn't sting so much. Malik simply let out a breath, turning back toward his laptop. I didn't come here to show off. I came because I believed in the value I could bring. But it's becoming clear, this system wasn't designed to let people like me in. Rebecca Stone wasn't a racist. At least, not by her own definition. She didn't spew hate, didn't say slurs. But she had spent her career fiercely loyal to the architecture of whiteness. The Ivy League resumes, the polished LinkedIns, the press suits and calculated tones that made people seem safe, qualified, fitting. Malik's very presence had cracked that system. And worst of all, she knew he was right. But pride, her iron-willed pride, forged in years of filtering 10,000 resumes, wouldn't let her admit it. The shame wasn't turning into growth. It was curdling into defensiveness. She had misjudged him badly. And she hated the feeling of being wrong in front of witnesses. So instead of reflection, her instinct was reassertion. To find any way to reestablish the hierarchy that had just imploded. The door opened again. Derek, a senior technical manager in his 40s of Indian descent, known around the office for being detail-obsessed and unshakably fair, stepped inside. He walked straight to the console, still displaying the recent patch logs. Malik stood beside it. Derek looked at the screen, then at Malik. Who applied this fix? Jason answered quickly. Malik did. Derek turned to Malik, meeting his eyes. You built FalconGate.js, didn't you? I remember sending a thank you email to the contributors list last year. Your framework helped my team pass Oracle's security audit. Malik nodded quietly. Derek didn't hesitate. He extended his hand, genuine and firm. If this company fails to recognize your value, I'll be the first to apologize. Malik shook his hand. Rebecca's jaw clenched tight. Shortly after the incident, an internal email leaked. A screenshot of a Slack message from Jason made its way onto Twitter. The applicant Miss Stone dismissed as not polished enough. Just saved our entire back-end security infrastructure. Within the hour, ByteForge's internal Slack lit up with debate over hiring bias. A female Asian developer replied, I was once asked if I'd be okay attending late-night meetings with male execs because I didn't go to a top-tier school. I know exactly how Malik must have felt. An anonymous post from a black employee in the legal team read, This isn't the first time, but maybe it's the first time the system is finally being forced to look at itself. Through the tension, Rebecca finally turned to Malik. Her voice was dry, brittle. ByteForge is willing to reconsider. If you'd be open to it, I can restart the evaluation process. Malik looked at her. Not angry, not smug. Just tired. I don't want an invitation because you feel guilty. I want one because I earned it. And that should have happened 45 minutes ago before I patched anything. He paused. Because if I have to rescue your system before anyone listens, then this isn't a place I want to stay long-term. Derek, the senior technical manager, didn't let it drop. He asked Malik for his resume again, this time actually read it. Then he sent an email to the company's CTO, CCing several team leaders. This candidate isn't just a skilled developer. He has a deep systems mindset. I propose we bring him on as a security advisor during our API 4.0 architecture review. Jason replied instantly, Fully support. If he hadn't been here this morning, we'd have lost almost 1 terabyte of logs. Rebecca quietly left the room. Malik exited the building without another word. But emails were already being sent. Internal conversations were starting about who gets seen, who gets ignored, and how that needed to change. Later that evening, Derek messaged Malik directly. The system won't change in a day, but we need people like you to make it better. 3 days after the infamous interview, Malik woke up to over 700 unread messages. His old phone buzzed nonstop. GitHub notifications were exploding stars, forks, and comments from developers in over 40 countries. Falcon Gate.js, the framework Malik had built alone 3 years ago, while his mother lay in the hospital, was now at the center of a global conversation. Reddit's r/programmer humor lit up with memes. ByteForge, we only hire people with MIT degrees. Malik types 2 bash commands, saves entire backend, walks out. Dev community. Neil.gif. On Hacker News, @DevInsider tweeted, "It's time tech stopped worshipping Ivy League." Malik Washington is living proof that talent doesn't need privilege. A short blog post from a European startup CTO went viral, shared over 18,000 times. We use Falcon Gate.js. Knowing the guy who built it got rejected because he wasn't wearing a dress shirt? That honestly makes me ashamed. That afternoon, TechCrunch, Wisconsin Red, and The Verge all published front-page articles. ByteForge rejected a genius who then saved their infrastructure. Others were even bolder. The scuffed backpack and worn sneakers, proof of a broken system. When a degree can't fix a breach, but a degreeless developer can. Malik Washington, the new name redefining tech recruitment. ByteForge's Glassdoor was flooded with 1-star reviews. Looks over skills. If you're black and wearing old sneakers, don't bother applying. They rejected brilliance over bias. A tech company stuck in a 20th century mindset. Internally, chaos reigned. An emergency meeting was called. The CEO was forced to issue a public statement. We are reviewing our hiring practices and evaluation criteria from top to bottom. Rebecca Stone was placed on leave, pending an internal investigation. Malik's inbox overflowed. MavenSec, a top-tier cybersecurity firm in San Francisco, offered a CTO position, $480,000 a year, 2.5% equity, his own team. Stripe, DigitalOcean, Notion, even the Mozilla Foundation reached out offering advisory roles with no interviews required. A well-known VC at Andreessen Horowitz left a single-line message. You want to start something? I'll write the first check. Jason messaged Malik on Discord. So, have you chosen yet? MavenSec? Stripe? After a pause, Malik typed back. I turned them down. Wait, what? Why? Malik replied, I'm not interested in being a trophy for the same system that shut me out. The next day, a minimalist website launched. Openrooted.dev. Logo. A seedling breaking through cracked cement. Tagline. Not everyone has a degree, but everyone deserves a way to learn. The platform offered free security programming courses specifically for Black youth, low-income communities, and those who couldn't attend college. Malik himself mentored the first cohort. He was joined by 4 engineers from major companies, all volunteers. The site's interface mirrored a clean command-line terminal. No frills, just code. Within 24 hours, 5,000-plus signups, 12 new volunteer mentors. An email from a Bronx high school. We want our students learning from you. 1 month later at DEF CON, the world's most prestigious cybersecurity conference, Malik took the stage. He still wore his old backpack. He didn't talk about discrimination. He didn't name-drop ByteForge. He just projected one terminal command on the screen. He stood still on stage, the spotlight soft against his hoodie. No speech, no pitch decks. Just one terminal command projected onto the giant screen behind him. Fix auth bypass v3.2.0 force. Done in 31.2 seconds. The line was quiet, simple, elegant. But in that silence echoed everything he had ever fought through. The doubts, the slammed doors, the interviews where he was never enough. And now, in just 31.2 seconds, he fixed what others couldn't. Not because he was better on paper, but because he had built the paper they were all reading from. Then he said, I don't have a degree, But I have this line of code. And if you're trying to break into tech without a passport made of privilege, remember, you don't need permission to be brilliant. The room stood. Applause thundered. For nearly 2 minutes straight. Malik no longer needed anyone's approval. He didn't win with a title. He won by building something bigger than validation. He built a movement. ByteForge? They kept running. But they lost the chance to work with one of the greatest cybersecurity minds of this generation. All because of an old backpack, a scuffed pair of sneakers, and the color of his skin. When one story rewrote the rules. Just 2 months later, openrooted.dev was no longer a lonely little website. Over 1,200 regular learners from 11 countries had signed up. Most were people of color, immigrants, or school dropouts. There was now a dedicated mentor group in Nigeria, and a satellite Spanish language branch had launched in Miami. Malik still taught every Saturday. He used a free Google Meet, an old laptop with a flickering screen, and a headset held together by tape. Every class began with the same words. Have you ever felt like you had to change who you were just to be taken seriously? Here, you don't have to. One of the first students, Jasmine, a 17-year-old single mom, just pushed her first real-world security commit, a Python plugin to block brute force SSH attacks. It was forked the same week by a startup in Lisbon and applied to their production server. In the mentor group chat, Malik simply wrote, "She's 17. Don't tell me degree first." Not long after, Malik received an email from the Office of Senator Carla Hinesa, leading voice on educational equity and racial justice. Subject line: "We need your voice at the upcoming hearing." Topic: bias and discrimination in U.S. tech hiring practices. Malik hesitated. He wasn't a politician. But he thought of all the late-night messages from students. "Thank you for not caring where I went to school. You made me believe I could be in tech." He knew then this wasn't just his story anymore. In Washington, D.C., inside a crescent-shaped congressional hearing room, where every word was recorded into the national record, Malik entered. Still wearing his scuffed sneakers. Still carrying his old backpack. Still wrapped in that soft gray hoodie. A camera light blinked red. A council member leaned over and muttered, "He didn't even wear a suit?" But when Malik started to speak, the entire room fell silent. "I'm not here to debate standards. I'm here to remind you. There are thousands out there being rejected not because they're unqualified, but because they don't look like those who have always been chosen." He told them about ByteForge, about Rebecca's glance, about the silence in that room, and about how it only took one click in 30 seconds to fix everything. Then he ended with this: "If we want to call tech an open door, then we better open it with skill, not with pedigree." The hearing aired live on CBS News, Bloomberg Tech, and MSNBC. The hashtag #OpenRooted testimony trended at #1 on Twitter, X, for 2 straight days. 3 weeks later, Senator Hines introduced new federal legislation. Any tech company receiving public funding must prioritize skills-based hiring over degree requirements. Financial support for community-driven learning platforms like openrooted.dev. Formation of a Tech Equity Advisory Council with Malik invited as a permanent advisor. ByteForge, after sustained public pressure, held a formal press conference to apologize. They asked Malik to return as a security advisor. He politely declined. One evening, Malik was teaching a class over Zoom when he heard a soft knock. It was Imani's 16-year-old sister. She was now studying STEM with a deep passion for cybersecurity. She held up her laptop, beaming. "Malik, I just finished writing a module that auto-detects injection flaws for FalconGate.js. I'm going to submit a PR to the main repo." Malik stared at her tight, high-bun, nerdy glasses, confident voice, eyes glowing with purpose. "That commit," he whispered, "is going to make a lot of people rethink everything." Imani grinned, then asked, "Do you think I need to go to Harvard?" Malik ruffled her hair and smiled. "You just need to be yourself. But hey, don't forget to lock that endpoint before you push to prod." Late one night, Malik sat on the roof, watching city lights flicker below. A new message pinged on his phone. From a student in Kenya. Teacher, I'm now teaching a small group here. Internet's weak, but passion's strong. I'm using the light version of FalconGate.js. Malik clicked, Approve pull request. Then he closed his laptop and looked up at the sky. He hadn't won for himself. He had won for those who came after. It began with a rejected interview. It ended with a system forced to see itself for what it had been and what it could become. Malik Washington degree. No suit, not from an Ivy League. Rewrote the very idea of what it means to be qualified in tech. And more importantly, he carved out a place for those once told they didn't belong, without ever asking permission to exist.